Moadim l'simcha. Moadim l'simcha is the special greeting that we greet each other with after the first days of the holiday, during the intermediate days of Passover. And so I wish you, Moadim l'simcha, a joyous intermediate period until we come to the last days of Yom Tov, and again wish each other Chag Sameach, Good Yom Tov. Tuesday night, the second night of the second Seder, began the period of the counting of the Omer. The Torah tells us that when the Israelites were to arrive in the land of Israel, Ki tavohu el haaretz, God commanded them that at the beginning of the season, spring season, they were to take an Omer of grain and present it as a gift to the Kohanim. What's an Omer of grain? An Omer traditionally was a sheaf, a bundle of grain, large enough to be a reasonable sized gift, small enough to be carried by hand and to be presented to the Kohen. The Kohen would take this bundle of grain and wave it over his head, giving us a full indication that the grain had to still be in its raw form, in the form that it was harvested in, and not yet threshed and not yet turned into flour. The earliest crop that grew in the land of Israel was barley, and so the Omer was a gift of barley brought to the Kohen. The word Omer also refers to a dry measure, a volume measure. We know that an Omer was the amount of manna that Israelites collected when they were in the wilderness, each day, one day at a time. One Omer of manna provided enough food for an Israelite for the day. And so an Omer, probably as a dry measure, represents something like a liter of barley grain. The Torah tells us that beginning on the day after the first day of Pesach, our second day of Pesach, we are to count 49 days, 7 complete weeks, and on the 50th day there will be a festival to the Lord. That festival, of course, is called Shavuot, the festival of giving the Torah. Each day when we count the Omer, we recite a blessing. Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav etzivanu al sefirat ha'omer, who has sanctified us and commanded us to count the Omer. Each day we count. This is the first day in the counting of the Omer, the second day in the counting of the Omer, and when we get to a complete week, we say, today is a full week in the counting of the Omer. After the week is done, we count days and weeks. This is a week and a day in the counting of the Omer. Since the Torah commanded full weeks, complete weeks, and complete days, it is traditional, customary, to count the Omer at night, so that we have a full day for the counting of the Omer. Typically, we begin the counting of the Omer at the Mariv service, and then, or at least when it becomes dark outside. And if we forget to count the Omer in the evening, why, we can count it the next day until sunset of the next day. But the rabbis tell us that we don't count with a blessing, for we have not fulfilled the mitzvah of counting a complete and whole day. We've just counted a partial day. Some have asked why we don't recite the blessing Shehechianu, the blessing that we recite the first time we fulfill an obligation. After all, on the first night of Pesach, when we recite Kiddush, we recite Shehechianu, thanking God for allowing us to reach this occasion. 2 different answers are given to that question. One is Shehechianu is recited if we know that we are completing the mitzvah, the required activity. Certainly by reciting Kiddush, the first night of Pesach, we complete that action. But in order to complete the mitzvah of counting the Omer, you have to count each day for 50 days. Lest we miss a day, we don't say Shechianu. What's more, the counting of the Omer was intended to bring us to the temple, back to Jerusalem for Shavuot. And now, since the temple has been destroyed, and we can no longer bring the offering of Omer to the Kohanim in the temple, we are saddened by that fact, and therefore the Shechianu, which celebrates joyous events, holidays, first-time events in our lives, that bracha is omitted. We began the Omer a couple of nights ago. During this period of the Omer, I wish all of us, first of all, complete and full and fulfilling days, and that together we reach the 50th day, the day of the giving of the Torah, Shavuot, and may we gather together to receive the Torah, having counted 50 full days, 7 full weeks. Amen.